They just gave us a fancy WCCO water bottle the other day.
Nice.
Let me actually fill up my water.
Yeah, I'm a professional now. All of a sudden, you're 2 minutes in, and you're like, "Oh God, I just need that water so bad."
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have an assistant, guys.
All right, one last drink of water, and then we'll go. This is Purple Highs. I am Mark Bondi here with my co-host,
EJ Dudley D.
And we are chronicling the days of Wild. We are super excited to be here today. It's been a minute. We apologize for our inconsistencies on the podcast front, but COVID kind of sent us for a loop and we're trying to find our rhythm again. But we're here today really with a special guest, Matt Liddy, producer at WCCO. Matt goes back to our era at Southwest High School, so we've known Matt for a little while, and he found a video of Prince. So we're going to talk about that today, kind of find out the story behind it, and just get into it. I'm pretty excited. Dudley, how you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good, man. Like we posted on our socials, Matt had sent me this video. Now we'll get into that, but it's just amazing to see the world react to this video. Everybody's seen the video now, so the cat's out the bag.
Okay. Yeah, you had a little sneak peek on it all. So it's exciting times, and we're gonna just talk about how it came to be, how Matt found it, and it should be a fun conversation. So with that, Matt, why don't you just give us your story? Who are you? Where'd you come from? Like, give us the background of Matt Liddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. This is a fun one. I'm part of my press tour this week. That's pretty unusual for a behind the scenes guy, but yeah, I grew up in South Minneapolis and went to Southwest High School with you guys. Left briefly for Madison. I don't know if everyone's going to cheer for Madison, but went there and came back here. Started working at WCCO 20 years ago now, so right in late September 2001, and I've had all sorts of roles here from basically an intern to production assistant to producer to executive producer, and now I'm the production manager. So my role now is kind of overseeing the studio operations at the station. And as we get into more of the Prince story here, I'll explain that, my job right now really doesn't have much to do with finding, this is total luck. So I was not part of the story. I had nothing to do with, I was just curious. So it's a pretty
as far as WCCO, like you started as an intern and you worked your way up your whole career there, huh?
Yep. My entire career's been here.
Awesome.
It's really been it's a fun job. It's a stressful job, but it's just a unique, not too many people get to do the kind of thing that I do, which is go into work every day and really not have a clue what you're going to be working on, because it just depends on what's happening in the world. So it's been a very, very enjoyable job, and there's definitely no exaggeration in saying that this has been the most fun week of my entire career.
Yeah,
it's just been incredible.
It's a significant one, and growing up in Minneapolis, kind of coming from South Minneapolis, Prince's backdrop. I mean, how connected were you to Prince and who he was in your youth and then into your days at WCCO?
Yeah, I consider myself a casual Prince fan. I was a fan growing up, but I wouldn't have been the guy who could list off the albums and tell you everything about them and, know what was going down at Paisley on any given weekend. I was not that guy, but I enjoyed his music. And then as I got older, I enjoyed it more. Saw him. Dustin was with me at a concert at the Dakota in 2013. That was the first time that for me really explained it all to me.
Yeah. Was that your first time seeing him?
It was my first time seeing him live, and it just shocked me how incredible it was. Now, it was the Dakota with 300 people, so that's just an incredible place to see him. But I was absolutely blown away by his guitar playing. I'm a huge music fan, but I just, again, I would consider myself someone who enjoys his hits, doesn't know a ton about the deep cuts. And then that concert blew me away. It was, I'm a huge Stones fan, so I probably have to put them as my favorite concert ever. Mm-hmm. Close second is the Prince concert. It was incredible. And his guitar playing and musicianship and stage presence and everything really struck me that night, and that I became a much bigger fan that night. And then I worked at WCCO when he passed, and that day was one of the harder days of work of my 20-year career. It was also another eye-opener about just how massive an impact he had on the world. And, being somewhat of a casual fan, it took me, I was taken aback by it. It was, we were getting calls that day from radio stations and TV stations around the world wanting us to help weigh in on the death of a superstar. And, I reached out to Dustin that day because of his connections and, so having that experience as well also really opened my eyes as to how massive he is. And then this one, same thing, that's why his death was the reason why this did not shock me nearly as much as it shocked some other people, because I could tell
in relationship to the scale.
Deal. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because all of a sudden the world is rolling into Chanhassen and into Minneapolis in full force. You've seen that one time before, so it's really quite interesting. On the Dakota, do you know what night you went? What show was that?
For the last one, Friday, second show.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Was Dustin the hookup there, or did you just run into him there? How'd you get
Dustin,
get the tickets?
I would say Dustin is the hookup in that he had told me that if you just go shortly before the show and stand there, somebody might walk out and say tickets. And that's exactly what happened. Actually, it's a good story, because so Dustin told me that, and I told somebody else that at WCCO who's a huge Prince fan, and he and his wife went to the early show that night. And I just told him, might as well go over there at 7:30 and just stand there for a half hour, and you never know, you might get in. And sure enough, they're standing there at 7:45, and somebody walks out, sells tickets for, I think it was $300, $350. It was pretty expensive. It was an expensive concert, but it was worth it. And anyway, so he went to that show. I had no idea if he had gotten in or not. And I was at work that night doing the 10 o'clock show. So at 10:15, he comes running into the station, because it's right across the street from the Dakota. He's all sweaty and out of breath, and he just slams down a ticket on my desk and says, "Thank you for the hookup. Now I'm paying you back by giving you it." So he had bought another ticket for me. He did the same thing. After the show, he stood there and waited. They had another ticket. He bought one for me, slept it on the desk. And I'm shaking as I'm sitting doing the show. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to finish the show and walk over to the Dakota and see Prince. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And for those that are listening, geographically, WCCO and the Dakota are essentially across the street from one another. So it's just a nice, easy walk. And the venue, it's, they do a lot of jazz music, kind of sit downs, table type thing. It's real kind of classy and small, right? So it's a real intimate venue. And Prince came and, from what I hear, turned it out. I was in Copenhagen at the time, so I missed that gig. But I got, daily reports from all kinds of people around how amazing. And he was testing out the new band at the time. So it was real raw and fun. I
didn't have anything to compare it to, but he was in what seemed to me like a very good mood that night, very fun, playful mood. They had cleared out all the tables in the Dakota, so it was just kind of one big is not accurate. It's a small club, but in the space, it was big for that space.
Yeah.
And then loud. That's the only other thing I remember.
Yeah.
It was, my ears were
turn
ringing
it up.
for days after that. It was,
you got to crank it up.
Scary. It was almost scary how I was like, man, that probably took 3 years of hearing off my life. But again, worth it.
Worth it. So you got a little ringing in the ear, and Prince used to go there too, just to go check out gigs and see people, play. He was a relatively frequent guest of the Dakota and would, find his little spot in the back, and you'd see him come in and you'd see the security roll and be like, all right, Prince is going to be here tonight. So I think it's got some significance. I think people think, oh, Prince was just hanging out at First Avenue, but he was hitting venues around the city, and that was a common one. And obviously he liked what he saw there enough to say, hey, I'm gonna spend I think it was 6 performances, right? 3 nights.
6, yep.
Yeah, 3 nights, 2 performances each night, and good gigs all around. Now, did you see him again after that, or was that the first and last time?
That was the first and last time. So
okay.
I regret never going out to Paisley. I regret, those are the kinds of things that you kick yourself for now. But I still have a great story and a great concert, and I'll enjoy that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, we don't normally have people on our podcast who have not been to Paisley to see Prince perform, but we're going to make an exception.
I get an honorary membership.
Yeah, you get an honorary membership, but I think the impact of the show, though, and the movement from kind of one level of fan to another level of fan is pretty common, right? Like that's what we hear is I didn't really know, right? And there's these layers to the Prince community that a lot of times people don't see. So I think your story resonates and fits in a similar vein. So with this story, you're looking. How did it all start? It's the Minneapolis schools are on strike, right? And how did you get tasked with finding video for that strike?
I didn't get tasked with finding video for that strike.
Interesting. You're just curious.
I hope over the course of the next few minutes you'll understand just how shocking it is that we found this video. But yes, the Minneapolis teachers, it started before the teachers went on strike here in Minneapolis this year. And so before that strike happened, we were trying to offer context to this current strike possibility by showing this is the last time a strike happened in Minneapolis with the teachers union. And so that was 1970. And so our assistant news director, Patrick Armijo, had the idea to, let's check the archives. Let's see if we have anything from that. So we can, we're a visual medium, we're a television station. So we like to show people this is what it was like back then. And so he went to the basement to see if we had any film. Sure enough, we did have film. So he carries up a stack of film reels and gives it to our operations manager, who then scrounges up a film projector that from an office upstairs. We don't have. This is not a common thing. That
was my question. How frequently do you get into these archives and go through this type of
for film? I can confidently say that in the 20 years I've been here, we've done that less than 5 times and probably 3. And so this is one of 3 times in 20 years that we've taken film and restored it to digital.
How much film is there? I mean, I heard that there was a lot that was destroyed as part of something that had happened.
Yeah, there was a flood in the late 70s at our old building, and there were 4 shelves of film, and the bottom 2 shelves were flooded and the top 2 shelves survived. So this was on the top 2 shelves. And then when they moved from the old building to the new building, someone had the horrible idea to start throwing away film. So they ended up throwing away some of the other archive. So what remains is about 1,000 reels, which sounds like a ton, but it's a lot. They take up a lot more space than media nowadays. So there's a significant amount, but it's also not nowhere near the amount of film that we had at one point. So
yeah, if the film would have been collected over the decades, it would be a much bigger set of reels that were in there. So you got a limited amount.
Go back. Sorry, go ahead. Go back to tape. We get, it went from film to 3/4 inch to beta to DVC Pro. And so we use the beta and 3/4 inch and DVC Pro much more often than film. Mm-hmm. But film we just don't do because it's difficult. It takes a lot of work. So
when did those transitions happen when film became kind of outdated?
You
don't have to answer exactly, but
yeah, it was way before my time. So I'd say 3/4 inch probably started in the late 70s.
Okay.
And then beta would have started in the mid 80s, maybe up to 90. And then from about early 90s until really 2008, I think was when we went fully digital. So 2000, that was a little DVC Pro tapes that are about the size of a cassette tape. And
so I mean, there's a limited amount there that the mediums have shifted. So going back in time to the film is a rare occasion. And in this strike, you're trying to get some context. You could locate it in history. Hey, let's get these films. They bring them up from the basement. You find the reels. Where do you step in here?
Yeah, so the operations manager got 13 minutes of a film reel and moved that 13 minutes onto our digital video storage system, which is called Stratus. And then he sent an email to the managers saying, to the news managers, which I'm one of those, and just saying, hey, the film from the 70 teacher strike is in the system. Take a look. We can use it now for stories and go from there. So again, I have no reason to look at this because I'm not part of the story. I'm not on the editorial side of things right now at the station. But I was curious because I like history. I grew up in Minneapolis. So I just looked at the film, or looked at the digitized film, and because I wanted to see if I could see my old, see if Southwest High School or Fulton Elementary or whatever Anwat was at the time. I don't know what it was, but
so your curiosity was based on your kind of physical, experiential connection to the district. Like that was the major driver. Is I want to see if these schools are here and if I recognize these buildings.
Yes, that's all it was. And so just the same thing if you were to see old pictures of First Ave or Hennepin Avenue, like just to see what the buildings looked like at the time. That's what I was doing. And so I sat down and I was at my desk that I'm sitting at right now, and I scrubbed through just to keep looking at I noticed the governor's mansion. That was one thing, the only thing I recognized. I didn't recognize any of the schools. And then as I got near the end, about 11 minutes and 15 seconds into the clip, they were interviewing some kids. And for whatever reason, I kind of slowed down as I went through those kids. And, for me, it was pretty immediate that when I saw his face, it was like, wait a minute, that looks very familiar. And I looked at it a couple times, and then I Googled him because I wanted to make sure that the timeline fit, So I Googled his birthday, and he was born in 1958, June 7th, which happens to also be my birthday.
Really?
So not 1958.
Yeah. Well, I'll remember that forever, man.
Yeah. So I looked it up and then I did the math. I was like, okay, he would have been 11 years old. And
is this just you, like in your office by yourself?
I'm in my office and I'm stunned, and I'm like, I can't believe this, because I was really right away. I was like, that's got to be him. It really has to be. Once I knew that it was an 11-year-old, or once I knew that Prince was 11 at that time, I was like, man, that really looks like him. And so then I went out to the newsroom, and this was in our story that aired on TV that a lot of people have seen at this point. I went out to the newsroom and just kind of went up to people and said, like, hey, go check out, whatever the clip was called in our system. And said, check it out and just let me know what you see at 11:15. And people scrolled through and they were like, man, that looks like Prince. That looks like Prince. Every single person said it looks like Prince. Maybe a couple people I had to be like, do you think that looks like Prince? And then they were like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I called the anchors. They were later in the day, they were doing their show, and I called them in after the 5 o'clock newscast. And I said, hey, check this out. Look what I found. And so we were getting pretty excited right away because everybody could see the resemblance. So then we went from there. Then it started the search, because we're luckily we're journalists, and we weren't going to say absolutely like that's the kid unless we know for sure. You got to go
drive some sources, just to pause before we talk about the search, one, kind of the build on that whole piece. It gives me physical chills thinking about it, and, my mom texted me the other day and she was like, I saw the clip or saw the video, and she's like, it's amazing. I said, Mom, it's miraculous. Like it really is from a word perspective, I cannot think of a better, more appropriate word than miraculous that this video was found. And the way in which it's found and the information that you just shared makes it even more miraculous, right? I mean, the number of things that had to go right to get you watching it, seeing it. I mean, it is truly a miracle. So just wanted to kind of note that it's miraculous. It's the best word.
If there wasn't a collective bargaining argument this year in 2022, if there was no teacher strike, we would never have gotten that film out of the basement. If the first
and let's be honest, if you would have been doing your job, you wouldn't have been looking at that video.
Exactly. It's very true. I was killing some time.
And who else would have done that normally, or not normally,
producers,
but
a producer, a reporter, so there's definitely a chance that later in the week or whatever that somebody else would have gotten that far into the film.
Yeah.
But there's not that, again, it's really not, I'm not trying to take all the credit here, but it's not very usual to get that far into B-roll with, footage of something like that. You don't typically go 11 minutes in. And the only reason I was doing that was because I was curious. And,
well, that's what I'm saying. That other person probably wasn't curious about the buildings, and here you are.
So they would have taken the first 5 minutes of the film and used that for whatever story they were doing, and most likely never would have gotten to the 11 minutes. Oh, the other important part about this is that there was no audio on it. So it was just silent film at the time. And so, again, you definitely wouldn't include that kid in whatever story we were doing because it was silent and he was talking. So you wouldn't use that chunk of
Yeah. So it's hard to want to watch it further through into the 11-minute mark. It gets harder because there's no, you can't hear what they're saying. So the interviews are not that exciting. So now the search is on. You've seen the video, you've gotten, your confirmation from your colleagues saying this is happening. Everybody's amped up. What's the process by which you go from, we found it, we think it's him, and now we got to validate? How does that work? How do you,
well, you had to get the audio, right? You had to get the audio next.
We didn't actually, at first we didn't. Well, yes, we wanted to get the audio. And so the same guy who had restored the film and put it into our digital system, he reached out to a company in Minneapolis who could get the audio off of it. But it took him 6 or 7 days. So it was another just long wait before, because we were hoping that he would just say at the beginning of the interview, "What's your name?" Prince.
Yeah, Prince.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
We got it. But he didn't. So anyway, so we sent the film out to get the audio. And in the meantime, then we started reaching out to sources and acquaintances and people who might know people who knew Prince back then, or who we knew Prince back then, like his sister or people like that. But I will say, this wasn't it was cool, but it wasn't breaking news. It wasn't important news. This was not something that we needed to get on TV the next day. So we were, lazy is the wrong word, but we were pretty nonchalant about it. We were not urgently trying to get this confirmed. If it had been an important story, we would have been, no holds barred, getting everything going for it. But so
there's currently a teacher strike. There's a war going on in Ukraine. Stuff's happening.
Yeah,
but still, in the back of your mind, if that's Prince, it's a big deal.
I know that when we publish it, it is going to go. It's going to be big time. I'm positive that's going to happen. I actually, I did underestimate it, though. I knew it was going to be big, but I did not anticipate this. So we'll get to that part later. But we started giving it to a few random people. So Amelia, our main anchor, is friendly with Jimmy Jam. She knows Jimmy Jam and his wife. And so we had her text just a still shot of it to him to see if back in the day, to see if he would say it. And I don't know what I'm not her, so I don't know if he didn't respond or if he responded and said, I'm not sure or what, but that went nowhere. We had a couple other reporters just reach out to Taika and to a few other people. And again, I was not the person doing those calls, so I'm not really sure exactly but the bottom line is we never got an answer. And then I reached out to Dudley. And I was, very careful, and he was very understanding to say, look, I'm going to send you this video, but you cannot screw me and get it, put it out somewhere else. I know that it's cool, but please don't. It's been a nice 20-year career that will end quickly if all of a sudden this film shows up somewhere else. But I knew Dudley had connections, obviously. And so I asked him to, as carefully as possible, show other people. And I asked him not to send it to other people for the same reason that I was worried to send it to him or to send it to anybody, is I'm worried that it's going to end up on Twitter before we have a chance to release it.
So Dustin, how do you get the video? So Matt's got, he's gone through a couple, they're looking for it. And now how do you get the video? What does that look like?
So Matt sent me a text and basically he was like, would be easier to explain. Can you call me? I was going into a Timberwolves game. I called him right away, walking through the Skyway. He explained what's going on. He said, I'm going to email you this video. Can you take a look at it?
Just real clear, Dustin does the music for the Timberwolves. So he's the in-game sound. So like when he's going to a Timberwolves game, he's in like
going to work,
making it happen.
Going to work. So I got the video, opened it up on my laptop, watched it once. And I mean, obviously I can't confirm that it's Prince, but looking at it, I was like, man, that really looks like him when he does the side-eye thing. And the other thing that really struck me is when he said, because he always would say, before he would speak, like he's getting his thoughts together before he would speak. So right there, I was just like, man, I texted him back. I was like, man, that really looks like him. It doesn't really sound like him, but it's Prince as a kid. So no one knows what Prince sounds like as a kid. And then Heidi Vader, who works at the Target Center also, she happened to be there. And
Heidi, what's Heidi's story, Dustin?
She runs the Purple Playground. She's obviously a huge Prince fan and on our list to get on our podcast for an interview, for sure. But I just, and at this time there was, music playing, it was loud. So I just showed her the video. She didn't see the audio either. And I was like, hey, I quickly explained to her, I was like, just watch this real quick and let me know what you think. And immediately she was like, oh my God, that looks like him. That's gotta be Prince. That really looks like Prince. And she was jacked about it. Later on in the night, she came up to me and she was like, that's Prince. So immediately, it was just like, I'm just trying to figure out how I can help Matt out and who I can get this to. So, we kind of exhausted some things, but again, it was like, I can't just send this video to someone. Right. Yeah. So how do we gotta,
you gotta coordinate some stuff. So how long was it between when you got it at the Target Center and didn't tell me anything about it, by the way, Matt? I mean, he kept it tight for a minute. And when I was watching it at your house.
So
how long was that?
I think that was about a week or so.
Oh, man, you were supposed to say like a day. Come on.
Well, no, because I didn't want to tell you anything about it. And I just wanted you to watch it. Yep. And that's how I presented it to Mark, is I just said, just watch this video.
Yeah. And so we're doing a Prince night, or we're streaming. It's 3/19. Yep. So it's 3/19. We got a live stream. Dustin's playing music and we're just hanging out at his house, and Dustin does this whole thing, and then we go to some live stuff and drop the needle. So we're in the background. It's Dustin, our friend Keith, another guy, Rob, and we're just hanging out, and we're just hanging out, right? Listening to Prince music. Dustin turns down the music. Hey, Mark, I want you to watch this.
I was waiting for this moment too. I was
and just like, if you don't know Dustin, like he is the master of teeing up the situation. Like he had moved the chess pieces to the perfect moment in time. It's about 2 a.m, maybe. I mean, it's getting late, way past my bedtime. And I'm watching this thing and I'm like, what am I watching even? Like he gave no context, no understanding, nothing. And by the time Prince comes on the screen in full effect, my mind is catching up to it. My shock is at like the next level. And, I pretty much give after that watch, the 100% Mark Bondi guarantee that is Prince. I was like, there is no way that is not Prince. I said, there is absolutely zero way. And telling Keith, I'm like, you got to text Matt Liddy. And
Yeah,
Keith's
text
like,
Matt
no,
right
dude,
now.
it's 2 a.m. I'm like, no, you got to text him now. This is
I go to
critical news.
bed way earlier than 2 a.m. So
So anyway, and I was certain that it was Prince, and I also thought to myself, this is big. When I saw it, and it takes you a little bit, kind of you're shocked to kind of catch up. But I knew that this thing was going to be big, right? I think it would have kind of broad pop appeal for sure, but also within the kind of Prince community, like this is a real gem. So I see it. I give the 100% Mark Bondi guarantee. That doesn't move the needle with Matt. So how do you get to the story? WCCO has higher journalistic standards than that.
Somebody born many years after this film was taken is not going to we're not going to take that guarantee.
I get it. You guys got journalistic
credible
integrity.
Journalistic organization. We're not going to take that. So we, honestly, luckily, none of the things that we had tried up to this point had really worked. Again, we were not trying constantly to do it. It was more just like send an email or send a text and see if we could get it. And so I'm happy that Dustin didn't get back to me and say, I have this person to say yes, or Jimmy Jam get back to us and say, yes, that's him. Because then what we ended up doing is we were about in late March, the 20-something of March, the managers, again, were having a conversation about what we should do with this video, because we've had it for almost a month now and it's not getting anywhere, but we know that it's going to be big. We know that it's absolutely going to be here. So we decided what we'll do is we'll give it to a reporter and a photographer to do a story on it. And the story will be their search to decide to find out if it's Prince. Yeah. And if at the end of the story, they have found nothing, and then that will just be part of the story. We'll say it. We'll say, this is what we tried to do. We did this step, this step, this step. We talked to these 5 people. We looked at the film, and in the end, we don't know. Tell us what you think, world. Do you think this is him? Do any of you know somebody who could confirm it? Or is this Charles Johnson who grew up in Minneapolis and just says, hey, man,
just looks very much like Prince?
We didn't. That was the biggest worry for us before we threw it out into the world, is what if we're wrong and it's just some other random dude who grew up in Minneapolis. So anyway, we assigned the story to Jeff Wagner and Joe Berglove. Jeff's the reporter and Joe Berglove's a longtime photographer here. And they hit the streets on March 28th. So it was a Monday, and made a few phone calls, and pretty quickly they kind of had the whole thing figured out within 2 days. So they first talked to Kristen Jomler. I don't know if you guys know her or whatever. So she's a big Prince fan and has put together kind of a timeline of his life and times here in Minnesota. And we were kind of trying to do what Dustin did with you, which was sort of tell people, like, we want to show you something, but we're not going to show it to you until we're rolling, till we're taping this. So they went to her house and, gave her a cell phone and then started recording it. And she started shaking and crying and said, yes, that's absolutely him, But again, it was similar to the Mark Bondi 100% guarantee. She didn't count. But she put us in touch with Terrence Jackson, who grew up next door to Prince. And same idea, as they met him near Loring Park in Minneapolis. And they told him what we thought it was, and then gave him the phone and recorded his reaction. And his reaction was, oh my God, that's Skipper, immediately. And then, the first thing he said was, oh, that's Kitchen. And in the film, there's a guy who says, I'm Ronnie Kitchen. And the first thing this guy says without any prompting is, hey, that's Kitchen. And then he goes, oh my God, that's Prince. That is Skipper. And so we immediately knew that we were correct, and that this was a moment of gold. And he started tearing up as well. He started explaining how important Prince was to his life and just what it was like growing up with Skipper on the north side. And his wife, Rhoda Jackson, was also there, and she started laughing hysterically and just saying, it's just crazy to hear his voice and to kind of go back in time. And so the bottom line is what came about, because we didn't get a quick answer, was a far better story, because we had these genuine reactions from people from a guy who knew him back in the day, who started getting emotional. He hugged our photographer and our reporter, and he had good stories, and he's talked about what music meant to them as kids, and what was the name of their band? You guys know, Grand Central.
Grand Central. Yep.
So that was the one that he was in with him. Anyway, so we got that confirmation. We were good to go. They start writing the story, and we're a TV station. So for CBS, and the Grammys on CBS for that coming Sunday. So we knew that, all right, this is going to work perfectly.
This is perfect.
So we started teasing the story, and I think most people knew who we were talking about when we were teasing the story. We didn't show the video. We just kind of showed the reaction stuff. And I saw the actual story. I was on vacation and out of town, but they sent it to me Thursday night, so a few nights before the Sunday night Grammys. And the story itself, not just the video, but the way that Joe and Jeff told the story was just so incredible, because it was kind of the whole journey from my discovery to their them finding out, and the story hit at 10:30 something on Sunday night, and it's been a crazy week since.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about kind of your points of, hey, we swung and we missed on a couple of these things, and the people that you did connect to and their reaction to, it just made it so human, right? I think when you look at Prince and kind of who he is and how he's perceived and the pedestal on which he walked, both in Minneapolis and around the globe. I mean, here's a guy who's, making number one hits and is like a superstar, right? When he walks into the Grammys, like everyone's like, oh, that's Prince, right? What really struck me about the way in which it was told and the video itself, but I feel like Terrence really captured it as this is a guy from the neighborhood, right? This is somebody that had a home, had a community connection, and it puts roots to his superstardom, that he didn't just appear out of the smoke and fog like a Dave Chappelle video, right? He didn't just come through like, here I am, right? Which, kind of the mythic character of Prince, I think sometimes overinflates those elements. And I think this story and the way that it was told really captured this humanity. And I think that's oftentimes what gets missed is we put him into this, godlike figure. He's so good at guitar and he's wrote all these songs, etc. And those elements of who he was are often missed. So it is actually, it's a beautiful thing that I got told the way that it did, because I think its impact will actually have, more juice long term. So with the impact side of it, like, what have you seen over the course of the last?
It's been a crazy week. So I knew that the video was going to be huge. I knew that Questlove would be, once it finally got to him, he would be retweeting it and he would be in shock. And once Sheila E. saw it, she would, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know that I was going to end up doing interviews with the New York Times or Radio New Zealand. I did a live radio hit with New Zealand. I didn't understand that it was going to resonate that much, just the journey to find the answers that was going to resonate that so much. So, it's been seen millions of times. New York Times, Rolling Stone, Newsweek. I could go on and on and on with how many publications have mentioned it. And you just look at the overwhelmingly positive response from people too, is one of the things that as a news person, we just don't see that. Everybody hates everything. And so it's incredible to get something that pretty much, I would say, there's still probably 1 or 2% who are, they're just
they
really hate everything and they can't help themselves. But the overwhelming response of people saying they started crying, saying it brought them back to their own childhood, saying that they realized that it helped ground him to Minneapolis, like you were just describing. He's sitting there with his friends and jumping up and down to mug for the camera. And it's just a bunch of kids on the north side. And, the way it's touched people and the way people have become emotional looking at it, or even if you haven't become emotional, pretty much everybody's just like, that's cool. And that's incredible. That's incredible. The luck that it took to find that. And the purple one works in mysterious ways, man. Like, how the hell is that? It's a weird deal.
I mean, I connected obviously to various people around the country, that have seen the video and had reactions to it. And I think the most common response that I get is tears, right? This sense of like, here this is like, this is amazing, and it's a really interesting phenomenon. Where do you think it goes from here? What's next related to this story? Are you guys planning on doing follow-ups? Is there more things that you're thinking about around what's happened here?
Not really. I think, I mean, of course we're trying to think of other things to do with it because it's so incredible, and we know what it did for our social media numbers and our page views and things like that. But we also, some people won't believe this, but we don't want to like go overboard. We don't want to jump the shark and do silly stories just for the sake of showing it. I'm sure we'll show it again in other contexts, but we would love to talk to his family about it, have us sit down with his sister or other family members to say, take a look at this, or Andre Simone, or, people who, or, Jimmy Jam at this point, or Questlove, or, those kinds of things. If those people happened to come through town and wanted to talk to us about it, we would absolutely
put a camera on them.
I just got distracted there. Yes, we put the camera on them and go from there. But, I don't think we're going to do a whole lot more with it. We'll keep answering requests like this, and I'm going to be on TPT Almanac tonight, which is the public television here in Minnesota.
Nice.
I'm terrified of that one. It's the first one I've done that's actually going to be on camera, so that's not going to be any fun for me.
You got it down though. You'll be just fine. And if you're looking for fans to interview, our little plug for those that listen to it, April 23rd at the Ice House, you should come out. I mean, I think. I know you're hearing it through the news media and all the various people that are connecting with you, but I think the impact is pretty astounding. And I think this thing is going to live on in the Prince lore for a long time. And Prince is, while his popularity may wane some, he's not going away. I mean, the volume of stuff that he did, the impact he had on popular culture, the level of musician. I mean, this is, I read a little deal that you posted on one of the LinkedIn things, your 15 minutes of fame. And I mean, I certainly, it's 15 minutes of fame for sure. But I mean, you've inserted yourself into Prince history for all of time and space. You will be the guy that found the video of 11-year-old Prince. How does that make you feel? I mean, your grandkids are gonna, are gonna be like that. I know who that is.
Dustin knows this. I'm a fairly reserved guy. I'm pretty quiet. I would usually be kind of embarrassed about stuff like this, but this week I am fully embracing this whole thing because I do recognize that this doesn't happen, that this is my 15 minutes of fame or 30 minutes of fame at this point, or an hour of fame at this point. And it's just for such a fun reason and such a crazy stroke of luck that I'm going to enjoy it. I'm loving it. I'm going to go do this TV appearance tonight. I'm going to go celebrate with a martini after that somewhere and toast myself and toast Prince. And, I can, for the rest of my life, I can say that Prince gave me my 15 minutes of fame. And to me, that's just an incredible, it's forever a story that I'm going to enjoy telling. And I will never get sick of talking about this. I know that my coworkers are going to get sick of talking about this.
Tired of it.
They keep applauding every time I walk into the newsroom just to give me some grief about it. But
that's what good coworkers are for. Well,
exactly.
We very much appreciate you taking the time, hanging out with us today, talking about this, and on behalf, I'll speak for the entire Prince fan community, right? Just the blanket statement, thank you for being curious. Thank you for seeing it. Thank you for doing the work. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and just appreciate just that you were, there and did you in the process. It's the impact.
It's unreal.
It's unreal.
Thanks for not doing your job for a few minutes there.
Yeah, exactly. Just a few minutes. Keep in mind, it wasn't the full even 11 minutes. I was scrubbing through, so it was maybe like 3 minutes. That
3 minutes, perfect.
But then I wasted a lot more time because I started going out and talking to everybody about it. We couldn't get enough of it. So, Thank you guys for having me on. It's been super fun. This is nice to do an interview that's longer than 4 minutes, so we can really kind of get into the details. And it's been fun. And thanks to every fan out there who is geeked out about this as much as we are. And yeah, thank you, Prince.
Thank you, Prince. This is Purple Highs, Mark Bondi, DJ Dudley D. This was Matt Liddy, chronicling the days of wild. Peace and
be wild.